Hi there folks, welcome to Us As We Are. I'm Keegan Van Hook. Today we're at the Medford Neighborhood Church, and behind me here is a school bus belonging to Pastor Lee Gregory, who is the... What are you to the I Care campaign, Lee Gregory?
What do I do the I Care campaign? First of all, make it straight. I don't own this bus.
Right on.
In fact, the sign that you just went by says it's owned by the Phoenix Talent School District.
Then I should redo my intro.
No, you don't have to you do it. I'm just letting you know I don't own it for the record. But it is a bus operated through the Phoenix Talent School District, and it's entrusted to my care at this time. So, what am I regarding the I Care campaign? Well, first of all, I'm a part of it. I'm part of the care force. I'd have to say that. So, and so can you be. Anybody else could be part of the care force. Now, what is the I Care campaign? I think would be a great question to respond with first. It's a person who would say, I choose to care. That's why we call it I Care. Now, I choose to care. You know, most every person I've ever met, from the youngest to the eldest, do care about some things. So we had to use the word care, and we turn the word care into an acronym so we could find a common definition of the word care. And for us, the I Care campaign is saying, I choose to show C, compassion, A and R, respect, E for everyone. Care, compassion and respect for everyone. That's what the campaign is. It's a call to people to choose to do that for everyone. It was born, would you like to know that?
Sure.
It was born on November 8th, 2018. I was on a school bus like this, carrying children to their school, and as I was arriving at the school, some of the students recognized that I was their substitute bus driver, because that's what I've always been, is a substitute driver. They said, well, you drove the bus for us before. How are you, bus driver Lee? And I said, it's a rough day. I just found out my hometown is on fire. My hometown being Paradise, California. We'll make that story short. A whole bunch of students were showing that they cared. They kept using the word I care, I care. And I even asked one of the students, what does that mean when you say I care? And so we were all kind of stupefied, and that's where it turned into the acronym, compassion and respect for everyone. And from that moment on, little did we know that it would become a campaign that would help people who were displaced by the Paradise, California fire, also known as the Camp Fire. Those people came. We knew many would move to this area of Southern Oregon, and we started collecting donations that would help people who were being displaced by their fire and get reestablished here. We collected furniture, clothing, financial gifts, personal items, and that care campaign lasted for 6 months. Every penny that was given, every item that was given was definitely given into the hands of those who suffered from the Camp Fire. Little did I know, or plan on, that we would reactivate the campaign on September 8th, 2020, when we had the terrible fires right here in our region. On the day of those fires, it was officially our first day of school. First day of the school year, and many children hadn't seen a school bus for a while, and the children were just being made aware they don't get to go to school right now. COVID-19 has you wearing a mask. I want you to know, so nobody thinks I'm being a bad guy, I have my mask right here. But COVID-19 made it so students couldn't go to their schools in our region. So these same buses were being sent to strategic areas throughout the school district to deliver food. And on September 8th, I delivered food personally right to some areas I'll be glad to show you. I was delivering food to some of our local estates, parks, community houses. I'm trying not to say trailer park. I'm not sure if there's a politically correct phrase, but when I was growing up, somebody was saying a trailer park wasn't a great phrase. Well, I mean it nicely. So I went to trailer parks that I delivered food on September 8th morning, and they're being destroyed in the evening by a fire, and all those children were having to run for their life and their families. So we have reactivated the care force, and that's anybody who's willing to show compassion and respect to everyone. You can be part of the care force. And if you want to help people who have been displaced by these recent fires, well, you can contribute to the care force. Any item contributed will find its way into the hands of those who have suffered loss.
So you're going to take us on your bus route today and show us some of these affected areas?
Sure. Let's go take a hike.
Yeah, let's come on. Let's
Welcome
go.
aboard. Now, by the way, I have to say this as you get on. I got to say it. Watch your step and use the handrail.
Right on.
That's true. That's the rules. It's part of my rules that I follow. All aboard. By the way, remember you mentioned lollipops? They're always in my bus with me. You guys, anybody want one, you can. No.
Go for it.
One of the items about being a bus driver, you can get the skill pretty easy. We have a lot of people who say, I want to be a school bus driver, and they already have their commercial driver's license. They were truck drivers. But once they start having to deal with learning how to deal with a load that doesn't sit still, to deal with carrying cargo that jumps around, and you're trying to drive now and having to watch the cargo like I'm watching you gentlemen right now. I'm watching that one in the back with the hat. Seems like the guys that sit in the back usually create the biggest challenges. I was driving right through here on my way taking this bus back to its parking area, which is in Talent at the Culver Bus Yard out there is what it's called. And as I'm driving here on that specific day of September 8th, I saw the first growth of smoke straight to my south and off to my left a little bit. Here it's kind of a blue sky, a little hazy, but I saw that smoke start to climb. And as the smoke was I first saw it, my bus was being buffeted by the wind, gusts of wind that was going on. And my first thought was absolutely, see this flag blowing up here? That flag is currently blowing in the direction of what are called our prevailing winds. That's the way our wind normally goes. When the smoke blew up, that flag was pointing westward, northwestward the flag was, and buffeting us real hard. And my first thought was, oh no, not again. That was my first thought. And when I said that, I thought, nah, they'll get it out quick enough. They'll get it out. But it wasn't the case. We are now in Medford Estates. And now the view is so different today, now that the air is clear again and we've actually had a little bit of rain one time. When I first saw this, I didn't think any of the homes had survived this area because the smoke was so thick. I actually came in with a school bus. Now this is the day after the fire. I came in here to help one of our church families who lost their home get their medicines, to see if there's medicines. But as we come in here now, this is considered probably a middle income park. Newer models of homes, double wides, triple wides. This view right here is the view of every trailer park that was affected by the fires here. They all look, this is what they look like. This looks like my hometown of Paradise, California. Looks just like this. We'll step right over this way just a little bit.
Compared to the Paradise Fire, do you think that this is worse, both in the short term and long term?
No. Nope, short term or long term. However, I wish I could make answers really simple and just say yes or no like I just did. No, here's what it is. No matter who you are, when your whole life is burned up in fire, it's always done one heart, one family at a time. So I'd say the devastation of this fire is identical to the devastation experienced by people in Paradise. But that's one family unit, one home at a time. Because a destroyed home is a destroyed home. But now in actual destruction, the Paradise Fire was probably 8 times larger in its consequences than this. 8 times as many people displaced, 8 times as big a fire. This fire path, from all appearances, and I haven't heard the actual specifications, but for those of us who are out on the road, it looks like it got as wide as a mile in width, and it ran for about 12 miles. The Paradise Fire was 10 miles wide. The trees were much taller, so the flames were up to 20 stories high. The winds were more extreme in Paradise than here. They were having 50, 60 mile an hour gusts. And the Paradise, the whole town itself, a city, a net of about 28,000 in the town. I said 50,000 had to run for their lives because those were other surrounding communities, as it burned over 150,000 acres. But the town of Paradise, 28,000 people. Other surrounding towns make a total of about 50,000 people. Well, this displacement was close to 7,000 people. So by way of actual dollars and cents cost, acreage cost, they're not close. But every scene looks just like this in Paradise. Every street, every town, every part. The difference here is when I look around, I can stay oriented because I still see some of the existing homes and neighborhoods. And in Paradise, you lose your orientation because as far as you would see, it was only devastation, and you had no landmarks that were there to help you know, here's where I am. But again, let me say it because I care for people. Every person who lost their home, it's just as devastating here as it was in the Paradise Fire. The smell is not as extreme. Whoop, there we go. The smell is not as extreme.
Yeah, it was really bad the last time we were in this, yeah.
Here is what is good news, if it's accurate, and I have to be careful when I say something. I get to hear a lot of messages secondhand. I am connected with our emergency agencies, but my understanding is FEMA has declared they're going to come and clean it all up, and that people won't have to individually absorb that cost. And that's really good news for our region, our community, in some ways. In other ways, I want to say this, and this is a politically active statement. It's like radioactive, politically active. I hope our city leaders here in Phoenix and Talent, and I've already talked with our mayors at both places. I got to meet with one mayor more than once, another mayor once. If this gets all cleaned up by FEMA, it's going to make all the land extremely valuable to future investors. And low-income people won't even have a chance to relocate into these properties. And that has happened in my hometown of Paradise. The properties got cleaned up by FEMA, and now they're back to this higher value. And when a city is over 100 years old, like our Phoenix and Talent communities were, they grew, and they grew with some areas having more money and other areas being for lower income. When you get wiped out like this and it all gets cleaned up, well, we know how valuable land is today. The low income are often the ones who never get a place to come back to. It'll be interesting to see if our state leadership, our county leadership, and our city leadership have the capabilities of still designating some areas that can be for those who just have fixed, limited, and low income. Or if I grew up in construction, but not from my own experience. I've heard it from numerous people who are in the fire protection business. Mobile homes oftentimes are very quick to catch fire. They're made of materials different than the standard framed house on a foundation, and some of the materials themselves are not only extra flammable, they create extra heat, they burn faster, and if your mobile home is all sealed up and all the windows are closed, the heat will actually swell, and as you look at some of these places, you can actually see that most likely the home itself had a form of explosion. And I actually was near a fire when there were mobile homes, and I got to see a mobile home literally explode and not just burn slowly, but it swelled from the outside, towards the outside, and just exploded. And so when you see fire like this much damage, this whole area got extremely, extremely hot, as not only was one fire starting another fire, it started producing its own circle of weather and heat, and that's why you see melted stuff everywhere. And that's why you'll see sometimes the awnings didn't just like collapse in where they were sitting, they're exploded over because the home most likely exploded. Most everything that was in here could never be used again, because even if it was metal, the metal loses its density, its strength, and it's just unusable. Very little is able to be taken away from these places for any use at all. And all of it will have to be scooped out. And when the rains come, if they don't get these areas cleaned up quick, at least in the town of Paradise, toxic materials seeped into the soil. And before you could build on it, you had to know that, and rebuild, you have to know the soil is no longer toxic. So they didn't just have to take out all the debris that you could see, they had to dig out sometimes 2-3 feet deep, all the soil, and take it out too. And the question people are going to have to ask, and I haven't heard the answers, where's it all going to go? Where are you going to take all of this debris, and where's it going to be dumped? That's a story worth looking into as well. Right here, by the way, is my understanding, is our fire departments. This is where they decided they were able to regroup, and they said, we're not letting it go further than this. They gave it everything they had, and that's what made it stop here. Right in this area, right across here. I got the bus up to our bus yard, and by that time the fires were coming closer. We did not hear an evacuation order. We did not hear anything coming through the emergency broadcasting system or networks that we have. And I know that's being questioned now, why we did not hear any major notification through the public airways. And we were listening. I had the radio on here too. We were listening for that. These areas had very little time to respond. They just did, no way around it. You can ask anybody. All this through here, these people had just minutes, and the officers came flying through here. Emergency broadcast through the PA systems is what got these people to move.
A lot of people speaking on that story, just that there was really no forewarning for a lot of people until the final level 3 absolute have to evacuate this instant notice. How, in your view, should it have gone instead of it being so scrambled and so last minute? What kind of steps should have been taken?
Once you're aware that even the weather forecasters have said we have red flag warnings. They're talking about the wind circumstances. I'm going to watch traffic here. They're talking about the wind, and when wind is extreme on dry materials and dry areas, that wind will control the speed of the fire, affects the heat of the fire, and if it's a dry area, that wind can make it so you can't stop a fire just with basic firefighting measures. And they knew that. That had already been announced on weather forecasts, and so it should immediately cause everybody to respond in a worst case scenario. If you don't give people at least a level 2 warning before level 3 comes, then everybody hits the roads at the same time or don't even know when to hit the roads. And so the whole alert process, in retrospect, I think many people say we probably should have started the alarm quicker to get people to evacuate. The winds were telling us. Look at this scene you have right here now, that it's not dusty. It's been rained on once. It's not filled with ash. But when you see this scene here, this is a different type of mobile home park than what we were just in. The mobile homes in here, the vast majority of them are uninsurable. They're that age, it's kind of like having a car that's not worth getting collision for, or not getting full coverage for, because it's just, other thing is, insurance companies wouldn't insure many of these because of the age and condition of the mobile homes. The problem is no insurance of the types of crises here. These folks lose everything, and it's just everything. They've lost it all. I am grateful. I've heard direct reports from individuals who lived here. They didn't have insurance, but because they didn't have insurance, the federal government did provide them significant aid. And so they got some aid to try to help relocate. Some people who have insurance, it's been a detriment, because their report has been, well, since they have insurance, they don't get aid from the government. But the insurance companies are settling for a lot less than what the federal government was giving to those who had no insurance. It's kind of a mixed up kind of system that has a lot of inconsistency in it. And that I will say on record. A whole lot that we do as a culture trying to help others, we still become so inconsistent that some people get perhaps more than they should or more than they need, while others, many of the folks here just come up with nothing.
Do you think that the majority of people who lost homes in this fire are going to stay in the Rogue Valley ultimately, or do you think that they're going to move on to other places?
First, I believe that's a great question, so I've been asking it for a while. And while we don't have a definitive answer in some ways, a lot of them have already moved on. It does vary. This is not a political statement, it's just a rational statement. If you are of another ethnic background and this was your whole life and this is all you had, it's gone. And so we do have I've heard the estimate of about 60 to 65% of the children living in the Phoenix Talent area that went to schools, they're gone. They're not going to be around here. They're not going to be living in this area. They have just had to leave. And their families have found other places, that they're trying to find other places to land and settle. So that's the message I've heard from some sources within our school system. Those who, here is a fact though. All this area right here where we are is down by the creek, where the fire ran along the creek line. This whole area is considered floodplain area now, and my understanding is the state of Oregon and other restrictions say you can't build in this area. It's too much of a flood zone. These structures and all these places were here and allowed to be here because they were grandfathered. Their very age made it. They were already here. But for future development, they wouldn't allow this type of development to be here now. So what will be able to be built back in here, where, say people willing to stay or want to stay? I think people want to stay, but by the time the cleanups all happen, by the time we're actually doing rebuilding, it's probably impractical for people to stay. They have to go rebuild their lives, and they don't have 2 years to wait. I don't think they're going to say, we're going to clean this and allow single-wide trailers from the 1960s to come back here and be established. We're going to allow these little homes that you could get used for $4,000 or $5,000, let them come back here. See, I don't think any of that's ever going to be able to be here again. And there are a lot of people in this region that's all they could afford. So what would they have to come back to once this is all cleaned up? The basic math I see is there's going to be nothing here that they can afford to come back to. So here we are at Mountain View Estates. This is probably one of the most ritzy of the locations you'll get to go. If you see the sign there, it says 55 years of age and older. So this had only one type of clientele in it, retirees. There's no mobile homes. Yep, this was a triple wide right here. But they allowed it to be dug into the soil area, built up around it. Just the excavation of that, to put that in, cost thousands of dollars, probably 15, 20,000 just to excavate the lot. But as you look around here, the fire makes them all look alike.
Yep.
We had a couple of our family members that were in this specific park, and people came here, but most everybody here would have insurance. And so as a result, they got settled. They got all their contents would be covered by their insurance policy. They get full value of what their home is. But because they're older, they're not going to sit around and wait for years for this to be cleaned up, even if it will be. Another thing that stuns you is this was all of our areas out here, these newer ones especially, had all the state-of-the-art fire capabilities of fire protection. Fire hydrants at strategic locations, plenty of ways to get water to them, access from the different roads for fire protection. The wind would blow the fire from that tree, those tree lines, blow the leaves that were coming off, all types of floating debris that are ablaze, that are hot, would be flying on top of these houses. Then once one of them catches fire, the heat is so extreme and the wind blows it right across the street, it catches the other on fire. They call it a perfect storm. Well, it's a perfectly hideous storm when the winds come up and you got fire. This is not the first and only fire in our greenways. This fire, and I would say it to anybody who's in civic leadership. Okay, we have homeless people and street people, and they have needs. But everybody has needs, and we need to get this area cleaned up and safe from those who are irresponsibly allowed to live in areas that are fire hazards. What's crazy is they won't let me set a tent down here. If I set a tent down here and try to go camping in this area, I'll get a fine and I'll get a police record. Whoever is saying let the people stay down here is wrong. Let's find them another place to stay. And by the way, I told you guys I went on a ride. I went to what they call a camp for those who are homeless. 47 tents are set up. They have tents over the top of tents, so when the weather comes, it will still shed the rain from those who are in their individual tents. Have you guys seen that place yet?
Are you talking about Hawthorne Park?
No, I'm talking about a real homeless shelter. I'm talking about a tent place. It's set up now. It's only supposed to be set up until the end of September, and it's totally full of people. And it's they're allowing it to stay set up. It's over by Crater Lake Ford. Well, I want to beg you guys, quickly go and see the actual camp area I just described. It's worth it. I'd take you there right now. Just a quick drive, but it's on the way home. Guys, don't mind, I'm going to take a second here and get this back to position.
Okay.
Well, in response to your question, if I understood it correctly, what do I think could happen and should happen to help make it so people aren't in an area, living in an area that creates hazards for others? And what I'm saying basically, why people shouldn't be living in the Greenway. It's already against the law to camp in the Greenway because every person knows it's unsafe to do so. There's just too many hazards for the people camping and for the community around it, especially caused by fire. So I thought I'd bring you to a place. Look what has been established here. If you scan this area, you will see that an individual can actually be here, be comfortable, and be safe. At least as safe as you can be in this type of an environment. I do know for a fact, 24 hours a day, there's supposed to be a camp host here that just monitors the whole facility of here and making sure that if something is inappropriate, they can bring in the law quickly. They can bring in assistance or medical needs quickly. And this would, of course, be hopefully temporary housing, but at least it's not in the Greenway. And if we need to, as communities, create more locations like this, then for Pete's sakes, it could be a good career field for someone. People could have good careers of helping people get reestablished, rebuilding their lives. And I have a feeling a whole lot of our communities would love to say, I can help people get reestablished in their life as long as I know that what I'm doing is an investment that helps them. And it's helpful, isn't it, folks?
Oh, yeah.
It's good, and you know it's safe. Do you guys have? You do have.
People for being
Sorry.
intoxicated,
You're saying.
getting someone a safe place to come out to.
Yeah. And you folks, as we're here, there's someone usually around during the night to help make sure everything's safe, right?
Yes.
You have a
Always.
camp
Oh,
post?
yeah.
Always.
Camp post here all the time?
Yep. 24/7.
It's helped my daughter get clean and sober, and it's helping me take care of my tumor.
Help daughter clean and sober
I had
and
no
help with
place-
children.
I had no place for her to be, so I couldn't get my tumor taken care of.
By the way, good job. Congratulations. I know what it's like to have a child get clean and sober.
It's hard.
I know. Heavenly Father, people long before we were ever born said that you exist, and that when our hearts cry out to you, you hear our prayers. And so, Heavenly Father, I bow before you and I pray, God, that, well, you'd help us all count our blessings. In the midst of whatever the sorrows are, we still have many reasons to smile today. So before we ask anything of you, I think we'd all just want to say thank you. You guys agree?
Yes.
Thank you for the provisions of the day. Thank you for letting us meet each other today. Thank you for the moment. Thank you for this life we are a part of. Then, Lord, I'd also like to say, probably some of us need to tell you we're sorry. Sorry for some of the behaviors we've done. Sorry for ways we've acted. Because you didn't make us to do the bad things. You made us for good works. So, God, some of us probably just want to say sorry. And I'm one of them. But then the other thing I say, Lord, is we just want to tell you we trust you. We don't know all that you're doing. We don't know how it all works. But we trust you for our daily bread. We trust you for health and strength. And we'll trust you that better days are even yet to come. And in fact, Jesus, that's something you promised all your followers. You said some days we'll have it rough. Some days we won't feel like we have enough. But you did say the best days are yet to come. And I pray, Lord, that that promise would be true for all of us around here today. That one day we'd have better days. And you made this world really good. And you said there's a kingdom that's even better. So that's why, Jesus, you prayed, thy kingdom come, thy will be done here on earth as it is in heaven. So I pray that for all of us here. And then, Lord, I'd also say one more thing. Let the weather be good, please, and let these dear people find ways to live and places to live. That would just be a blessing to them. And wherever their children are, Lord, most of all, we pray for our children. Please keep your hand over all of them. And maybe one day we'd have a wonderful reunion. Pray this in Jesus' name, and all who agree would say,
Amen.
Thank you.
is that okay, guys?
You're praying
My
just
honor.
For me. You're praying just for me. It sounded like.
What's that?
Sound like you're praying just for me.
Well, you know what? You know what that proves? We have a lot in common, don't we, folks?
Amen.
The outward appearance is tricky, but we all have a lot more in common. So blessings to you guys. Thanks for letting us stop by.
Thank you.
So this location is basically a whole story in and of itself, and I think we will probably be coming back another day when we have more time to cover this in more comprehensive detail and talk to some of the people who live here. But in the meantime, we're going to keep riding with Pastor Lee back to the church and wrap it up there. Thank you, Pastor Lee, for taking us on this bus ride today. You really showed us some really interesting stuff. We had a really great conversation, and I think you're somebody I might want to come and talk to again sometime. And thank you for watching. This has been Us As We Are. I'm Keegan Van Hook, and we'll see you in the next one.
Did I get to say something real quick?
Yeah.
You guys got to stay in tune with Keegan Van Hook and his whole crew. You guys, I'm going to say thank you because I think you have a very special talent, even a gift, of asking good questions, having a great ability of listening, and I've watched you capture the true stories before, and I'm going to trust you that whatever you share from this is going to be the truth of what took place today. So Keegan, thank you, and thank you guys. Hope you enjoy the day.
You heard it here. Have a good one.